Well, good evening to this live stream. I'm your little host here, Roy, and thank y'all for all the friend requests that have come through to help build this this Facebook account so that we can continue live stream, because we'll have a lot more coming up. As you know, this is an easy way to share as a public account, so we can share it to multiple groups. Anybody can share it, and we've run into so much censorship on our 2A groups and other groups that as soon as you post in there, you can't share anything. So this is my answer to the censorship, and so far it seems to be working. But there's a couple things I want to bring up real quick. Is that because I have a multiple account, people have been messaging me on Messenger through Kingdom Lump Small Town, and it doesn't work for me, especially on my phone. I don't know what kind of programs they have running, but if I try to switch over my Messenger and answer your messages, my phone completely blitzes out, and I have to pretty much delete Messenger and re-download it. So you can always message me at my regular Facebook, or any way, I will answer it there. I'm trying to keep my Messenger on that because my phone will just blitz out and I'll have to do a bunch of stuff. So I'm not ignoring anybody out there, but I just want to bring that to your attention. So I know, I hope Buddy Peavy House had messaged me, and I was about to message him back, but about our YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel is Small Town Underground, and I'll post links up. And all of these interviews will be put up there as episodes, so that we can continue to keep sharing it and keep it out there to the masses. So also, I'm having a big issue with censorship as far as like trying to type messages and things, even to post something like to get ready for this. I don't know what kind of programs they got or what, but my words as I'm typing completely jumble up and they just go crazy, and it's like I've never seen anything like it before. And I know it's not me, because after I get through with my mistakes, it keeps on happening. So they're just hitting us every way that they can, and we'll probably talk a little bit about this. But no further ado, this is Todd Noblitt, running for state representative. A lot of you people know Todd out there. Todd's been in the 2A community ever since I started, and he's a great man, and we're very lucky to have him come out tonight. And so we're going to do this live stream, and hopefully we'll get some people in. Okay, good deal. We've got some people. Nick Ware says, can hear you loud and clear. Randy Pittman, sounds good. Thank you for that. I did mess up on the last interview, and we were having so many comments that I lost some of the comments. So I might keep looking and trying to keep us up to date on the comments. And if you know somebody that wants to join in on this discussion, send them. If you tag them in the comment section as we're talking, I will look and I will send them a request. We can get them in here. So that's what it's all about: is sharing the information with the community, getting to know Todd and what Todd stands for. And as everybody knows, it's a free platform here. So we're gonna take it away. So Todd, tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, Roy, thank you for having me. I've known Roy for, like you said, I think was it about January of 2020 that when you guys started up?
It was probably right. It was right at December, November-ish on 2019.
So I remember coming to a rally, maybe your first rally that you had here in Lafayette.
Yeah.
And still, I think I told you the other day, I have a plaque in my office that's been there ever since then, silent no longer.
That's correct.
This is just a wood plaque that somebody made, and I won in one of the raffles. But I still keep that, and it's a great conversational piece.
Nice,
so,
nice. All right.
Guys, my name is Todd Noblitt. I'm running for Georgia State Representative in District 2. That district includes Chickamauga, Rock Spring, down to Walnut Grove, over to Villanelle. Then in the Catoosa County, it would include the Chambers Precinct and the Wood Station Precinct. Then in Whitfield County, you go from Pleasant Grove, which is a partial precinct, meaning that only a part of those folks will be in my in District 2. Then Tunnel Hill, West Side, Trickham, Mill Creek, 2A, which is also a partial district, which is there at Dalton College, and then down to Carbondale, which is a very southern end of Whitfield County. So it's an interesting area because there's a couple of ridges in between there, but we've covered it quite extensively. Met people all over the community. Every community. We've made new friends. That's one of the things that, as a representative, I think is extremely important, is to know the people in the district, not just the who's who, but to know the people in the district that are just your average Joe person that just wants to live their life and be left alone to do their own thing. So had great opportunity to do that. Most of you that are watching will probably know something about me because of the relationships I've had with you guys for years. But my wife Sherry and I live in Chickamauga. We are a blended family. We have 4 grown children, and then we have 4 grandchildren. And I tell people we have our dog Denver. If you received a postcard from us during the mailouts, you would have seen Denver, and if not, you've seen him. You may have seen him somewhere else with us. So, guys, I'm an insurance agent by trade. I've been in the insurance industry since 2002, and I want to. That's a good jumping off point to speak on something right out the gate.
Sure. Bring it.
You know, you guys love controversy, and you love, if you're like me, you want to see the punches thrown. So,
all right.
the other day, you had an interview with Mr. Coles, who's one of the candidates running for this same race.
Yes.
And he mentioned that I stood to profit from the insurance industry from the House Bill 1013.
All right.
And so I just want to set the record straight. I actually am a personal lines property and casualty insurance agent. We do more of a we don't do health insurance at this time.
Right. Okay.
So I'm not I don't stand to make anything from the health insurance side of it because I don't have that kind of business. My concern is that, as I've said before, stability in how you make your judgments.
Right.
If you make a judgment on something and you're really not knowledgeable about it, then that's a concern for me if you're down in Atlanta.
Sure.
I want somebody in Atlanta that if they're going to make a statement such as that I'm going to gain from, Todd Noblitt's going to gain from the insurance, back that up.
Right.
Know what you're talking about.
Okay.
And so, starting out the gate, I just encourage people to, your representation is very important. You want somebody that doesn't do what they think is important for you, but what you actually speak to them about as a district.
Right.
And let them, you want somebody that's going to not just guess, but know. And so, guys, when I make decisions, I try to make my decisions based on information that I have, acquired for investigation.
Right.
I tell people sort of like when the guy comes into, somebody comes into my insurance agency, they bring in all these pieces to the puzzle, and I try to narrow it down, sort of like a funnel, until I figure out the answer that best fits that person. So going from there, as you guys know, probably all 3 of us, if you've kept up with the race, all 3 of the candidates are conservatives. We all would say that we're Christian. We all would fall in sort of a similar line if you just looked at all the things with guns and with other issues. But that being said, the other day on the morning show with Judy O'Neill, I had thought hard about what I wanted to say, and I realized I don't say it enough. This has nothing to do with anybody else in any race, my competitors or anything. But guys, my worldview impacts how I make decisions and what I do. So I believe that the greatest problem in all the world is sin. And sin separates us from God. And that creates a misery within us that people find. They try to find reconciliation or happiness through, it's alcohol, drugs, sexual relationships. Some people may skydive to try to find that. But reality is the only way to have true peace and happiness is to be reconciled to God through Jesus Christ. And so my whole premise of where I come from is that my hope is not here in anything in this world, but it's in Jesus Christ. It's through Jesus Christ, the hope that I have in the forgiveness that I have with the work He did on the cross, so that ultimately my hope is in eternity with God. So where that makes a difference is you won't see me get there's times I get, there's those if you're going down the road and somebody pulls in front of you, you instantly have that fear, and then what do? You get mad.
Right.
And so, guys, I tell people I'm not saying that I am any better than any person out there.
Right.
All I'm saying is that my hope comes from the source of my relationship with God.
Okay.
So
Yes.
because of that, it allows me to not have the tenseness and the worries sometimes the short term when you face something, because I know that no matter what happens in this life, my eternity is still okay. I'm still good.
Right.
So if you ever have the opportunity to read like Fox book or Martyrs, that book talks about people that have died for their faith.
Right.
And it's going back to even Stephen, and the Bible talks about Stephen and how peaceful he was when he was being stoned. How can that be? How can somebody have death coming at him and not be so tense? Well, the reason is because he knew where his future was at. He knew where his hope was at.
Right.
And so when I look at things, I'm not going to Atlanta in a panic. I don't think that the world's coming to an end, and Christ is coming back, and there is going to be an end to the world. But my worldview is not that everything's falling apart and we can't do anything about it.
Right.
So we have a privilege to be able to have representation in Atlanta. That representation can make decisions that impacts our quality of life back here in Northwest Georgia.
Absolutely.
So that's a starting place. And again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not telling you I'm the guy that's the perfect guy. I've got plenty of things. If you want to look at me and start tearing me apart, you'll be able to find plenty of things to make fun of or to point out as look at this.
Right.
So, but my worldview does matter in how I would represent.
That's good. I do want to back up just a little bit here. It's Bill 1013.
1013, the Mental Health Parity Act.
Sure, and I tell you the same as I've told. All I've heard is bits and pieces of this bill, and all I'm going to say about it is that I have a copy of the bill, and I'm not sure even if it is the finalized copy, but it's very hard read. A lot of information in there, and I know some very prominent people that I respect that are supportive of that bill. I also do know that you're never going to get 100% of what you want in that bill.
Right.
But there is I've heard concern on both sides of the aisle about that bill, and but the thing is I really like what you say. I don't talk about that bill a lot because I don't know. I've not sat down and studied the bill, and so I don't. Like I told him too. I've heard these things about the bill, but you bring up a good point. It's things that we should study and we should look into, and that we should really get a grasp on.
I will tell you, Representative Singleton is Mr. Coles talks about his endorsement with the Georgia Republican Assembly.
Okay.
And rightfully so. I had applied for that, and he received it. And so, I'll tell you that up front. But Representative Singleton voted no. There were three Republicans that voted no for the bill. There were some bad things in that bill.
Right.
Now, my understanding on the other side is that our representatives voted for it with the understanding that it would be cleared up on the Senate side.
Right, and I believe we had that same.
And so then all of a sudden the bill comes back for the final passage, and everybody voted yes for it.
So they probably didn't read it.
Well, I think that I think if you've got that many conservatives that are voting for it, it must have there must have been some point for it.
Sure.
Now the question I have though is how much of an impact economically is that going to make on us?
That's true.
I feel like I'm self-employed. I feel like my back's breaking sometimes.
Right.
And you can't convince me that you're going to add services and that it's not going to trickle down to where we're paying more for our health insurance at some point.
Sure, there's a lot of instances like that going on in this county, Catoosa County, about bringing these health institutions in that are, well, I'm not going to call them shady, but that we don't know about, right? So who knows? So,
and again, that's why it's so important. There's so much smoke out there. You've got to figure out a way to I talk about the funnel a lot, and that you've got to be able to funnel that information down to get to the bottom of it. Unfortunately, I saw an ad today. It was really disappointed in against one of the not in my race, But it was an accusation against another candidate I know to be untrue from knowing the candidate.
Right.
And that accusation was based on a vote on the bill. But the problem is, folks, that's how they get these guys. That's how they make guys look bad, is because they add stuff to bills.
Right.
And then if you have one portion of the bill you don't support and you vote no, it's like, oh, you're not supporting
Right, they can generalize that you're
They
not
generalize
supporting.
it. And
We've
so-
got an ad right here for Colton Moore that was the exact same way. So
Yeah.
it was pretty funny because I didn't look at it. We had just got it in the mail, and I was showing him, was like, look, we're going to talk about this, you know. And he showed me down the corner where it was all from the same bill, but it looks like it's not.
And that's a problem. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff you have to fight when you go down there.
Right.
And that's the kind of things when you come back, people will say, well, you didn't do this.
Right, right.
Well,
right.
you better know why you didn't do this. They just
Right.
don't just say, well, it was because of I didn't think it was a good idea. You
Right.
better have some reasons why you didn't vote for
Sure.
that. So-
All right. Now, the second part of what you said, and that was a blessing. You are absolutely right. I feel that we are just almost in a godless society, you know, around us. Now, not right where we're at, but let's talk a couple criticisms, okay?
Okay.
Because when I talk to people about you, I don't hear anything negative. But this is what people say. They say, well, he's too soft-spoken, and the one concern that I had from a couple of different people was your comments about reaching across the aisle.
Right.
And and I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No,
but
no,
I'm bringing this up.
Hey, I like it.
I want you to know, you know, and I tell people the same thing. I said, Todd is a very nice guy. I said, but one thing I know Todd not to be is a liar or somebody who is not going to do what they say, right? So I think that sometimes your niceness gets misconstrued with weakness.
Absolutely.
Okay.
People take it that just because, and again, it goes back to that what I was saying earlier. Just because I don't have a panic attack about an issue,
Right.
doesn't mean I don't want to see resolution. I'm not
Sure.
going to work to resolve it. Couple things. First, I want to address that. So, guys, I have no problem standing up against anybody. I'll stand face to face with anybody out there if it's something I believe in. If you come up to me and you tell me that you're going to take away Georgians' guns, I'll be in your face. I don't have a problem standing up and telling you you're wrong. You're not going to do that. And I'm going to make sure you don't do that. And I'll start telling you ways I'm making sure you're not going to do that. But if somebody comes up and cusses me, I don't sweat those things.
Right.
It doesn't, because guess what? 9 times out of 10, they're in my life, the people that have been that way, I could take them out in one swing.
Right.
I mean, honestly,
Sure.
I'm a big guy. If you guys
Understand.
haven't met me, I'm 6'4", 300 pounds. I guarantee you that if I wanted to take somebody out with my bare hands, I can. If I want to get in somebody's face on something, but the thing is, I'm controlled. The Bible talks about control.
Right.
Control is important to me. Self-control, not control of other people. Self-control, controlling myself, making sure I do the right things.
Right.
So when it comes to fight, one of the things that I get into, people are maybe disappointed. Some people, but they tell them, I'm not going to support the lottery, and I'm going to stand up against, or not lottery, gambling. I'm going to stand up against gambling because I don't think it's good for Georgians. I'm not going to put it on the ballot. I'm not going to vote to put it on the ballot. I don't think it's good for Georgians, period. So I don't mind standing up for issues that are things that I see as that are either that we need or that I think are going to be hurtful to us in the long run. But
Sure.
there's a lot of people that will talk tough, and when it comes down to it, you
Sure.
watch how they respond, and they soften up right at the end to go
Right,
with the flow.
right.
That's not who I am. I'm not looking to go to Atlanta and be ugly to be the no man on everything. You've got to work together. You've got to be able to build bridges where you can.
Okay.
Now here's the thing: you don't build bridges. We're not going to do anything that's going to build a bridge with somebody on gun laws, on religion, where there's freedom of religion, the things that are Christian based. I'm not going down there to sway on my morals. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to support those guys. If there's a road that somebody wants to have built from I-75 to Lafayette, and there's people for it and people against it, I'm going to listen. We're going to figure out a way to figure out an answer for that. So those are the kinds of things when I say cross bridges, what can we do? How can we work together? Well, what can we do to reduce government and debt? I tell people, and this is a good point for me to jump off of. I've got a plan for a process improvement plan. Our process improvement plan comes from my days at Shaw Industries years ago. We had they came in and they did a PI system. It was a system where you could submit ideals for reduction of either reducing damage to product or for some way of cutting costs to make an improvement in the process to make it more efficient to cut company costs. So night after night back then I was loading, driving a Polehaster and loading carpet on trailers. And as I loaded the carpet on the trailers, time and time again you would go in, you'd see where somebody had set down the boom of the mass of the Polehaster on the carpet and backed out and ripped the carpet. That carpet was getting shipped like that quite often. It was costing the company a lot of money. So I come in and I've suggested that they put caps on the ends, or they rounded off the ends of the mass.
Right.
So that it would keep from tearing the carpet. They implemented that. They gave me a week off with pay, and they saved thousands. So our government in Georgia, when we start talking about reducing budgets, the first thing that happens is people will automatically tense up. And when they because they feel like you're talking about me, my job performance, and that I'm not important. And so that creates a culture of people the state employees having animosity against our government, in the mindset of we're not appreciated, they don't take care of us, they don't appreciate the hard work we do. So we implement this process improvement plan statewide. Yeah, you're fine. We implement this process improvement plan statewide. We have our state employees submit suggestions on ways to reduce government. And for example, at my office, I have a contract with a company called Jamalta for background checks, fingerprinting. There are agencies in our area that have to send the same person 2 or 3 times to have their fingerprints taken. That's our taxpayer dollars being spent. It's foolishness. Why not have a way to have one person being able to be qualified one time for, if they're working for the state, they're cleared and they can work in whatever organization or capacity they want.
Sure.
Well, the problem is there's no, nobody cares about that because there's no incentive to make a change. So we get these folks thinking about ways to make these changes. We reward them with either time off or with, in some instances, maybe money. Depending, if somebody can save us $10,000, would we give them $500 if that $10,000 can be saved year after year?
Right.
Absolutely. So it's not going to be an easy process, but it is a doable process. Maybe we start small with one agency and we work our way up and build a platform that we can expand.
Sure.
But what that does ultimately is gets people thinking about, instead of tensing up and feeling like they're not important, it gets them thinking about ways to cut costs and improve things.
Sure.
Ultimately, we see our taxes reduced because the cost of government's reduced.
That's awesome.
So that's
great ideas.
That's one of the ideals that I believe can be worked across the board. Democrats and Republicans should be able to work in a way to do something like that because it's sensible.
Right.
Now, very clear. I'm a Republican. I'm not joining over on the Democratic side on anything that's going to be something that's an issue that Republicans stand for.
Right.
That's not. I want to be clear on that.
All right. That was primarily, and I'm going to tell you, I like what I'm hearing. I mean, because I am one of those doom and gloom people. I'm one of these people that like to tense up, and I'm looking. But it's nice to have you. If you don't have the multiple sides, multiple people looking. So if you don't have a level head to something and you go in an anger or emotional, that's when some of the worst things happen.
Yeah.
So I like what I'm hearing. We do have a comment that I want to hit, and but from Buddy Peavy House. Buddy, I hope that you heard me. The YouTube channel Small Town Underground. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. He put, how could you get other representatives like you to unite together to affect the liberals in Atlanta that are destroying our state. So
That's a good question.
yes.
So, if you guys elect me, the first thing I'm going to start working on is a transition to figure out. First, I'm a small business owner, so that's going to impact me and my business coming up in the first of the year when session starts. So that's important, for me. I've got to start working on that transition.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, during the next few months, what I'm going to start doing is laying out a pattern of figuring out how to connect with folks in Atlanta who are going to be in Atlanta sessions the same time. The newly elected,
Right.
the ones that are there that have been there.
Mm-hmm.
Connecting with those folks, figuring out the ones I can trust. Because God's reality is until you work with someone, you really don't know if you can trust. You think you trust them, but people will let you down. And so I've got to figure out those people that are solid enough that I feel like can be on a team, and we start team building with the Republicans that are conservative, the ones that have the same values that we have here in Northwest Georgia. Then once we start figuring that out, we start figuring out what about the guys all across the state. And so we put together a small group up here, and we expand that and expand it until we can get a group big enough to get more done.
Right.
So that's
Sure, I understand. I'm a person that always wants to work with people because I try to understand,
Right.
and it, like it's hard for me to fathom all of this with what we have going on in Atlanta, and I'm glad you have this open mind because I try to keep it. I was thinking the other day, I went to a libertarian gun page that was they had like LGBT gun
Right.
page, libertarian, and I was just looking at some of their posts and stuff, and I thought, I'd love to have that person on and sit here and talk to them, because when at the end of the day, no matter what they are or what I am, at the end of the day, they're probably wanting the same things that we're wanting. So that disconnect of what we have and all these groups and everything, and it's hard to, I think we're going to have an uphill battle in Georgia.
but that's what's so tricky. You have to be careful because you don't want to connect with someone that is. There's some radicals out there
Sure.
that are certainly not in line with what we believe in
Right.
Northwest Georgia.
Oh yeah, now
And
belief-wise,
so
yes, absolutely.
you've got to make sure those things fit, those relationships fit.
Right.
Stacey Abrams and I probably will never sit down
No.
and agree on very much.
No. I'm not trying to say that. I watched one of her snippets the other day about healthcare or Medicaid,
Right.
expanding healthcare, Medicaid, and it didn't even, what she was actually saying didn't even sound half bad.
Oh, yeah,
But that's the whole problem, the disconnect between this paradigm of blue versus red, and that the Democrat Party's been completely hijacked with this liberalism and evilness. How
Well,
can you stand on that platform?
If you go to Stacey Abrams' campaign page and
Yes.
you look and you read the things that she says, she has
Yes.
nice paragraphs, and those paragraphs sound very good. But then if you look at the engine that's
Yeah, the
driving,
fine print, sort of.
if you look at the click on the engine that's driving those, it's nothing more than socialism.
It's really not.
It sounds great, but ultimately it expands government.
Sure.
And it grows the things that we as Republicans are very much against.
I couldn't agree more. So, it's like I said, it's going to be an uphill battle with these people. Speaking of that, and you don't have to comment on. I'm not asking you who you're going to vote for or anything like that, but how if you're elected and you're moving forward, hypothetically, how are you going to deal with the Stacey Abrams governorship?
Well, if worst case scenario,
Right,
and we're
right.
certainly
Worst
praying,
case
we're
scenario.
praying it's not going to happen.
Right.
We're working to make sure it doesn't happen by
That's
encouraging people to get out and vote.
Absolutely.
Stacey Abrams is governor. I'm a freshman legislator. I am going to work to make sure that her agenda has kinks in it anywhere I can.
Good.
So we're going to find ways. Marjorie Taylor Greene and the thing she did were calling votes at in the United States House. Excellent. So what can we
Yeah.
do? What tools are
I
out
don't know
there?
if you saw that interview, the Tim Pool with her and Mr. Massey from Virginia.
I did not.
I couldn't believe at how negligent our own government is with these votes, and they laid it out, and I mean, like, it was eye-opening.
So
yeah.
what kind of tools are out there to help me do that? That's what I'm going to start
Right.
looking at. So it does, unfortunately, I don't know that you have to work within the system, but you find ways to make sure that the system doesn't change in a direction that she would like for it to go.
Absolutely.
So that's we hadn't even talked about gun control.
No, we haven't. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up.
I'm looking at the time. I want to make sure we got it in.
Yeah, we will. Let's move along to that now. Everybody knows that a lot of these will be posted in 2A groups, and so you just go ahead. What about gun?
I think
what about gun?
Roy's head almost exploded when I first met him because I told him that I didn't have a pistol. And so, but I went on to explain. I have a stigmatism, and I have struggled with. I've been around. We've got a clay or a chert pit in our backyard.
Right.
And I have friends come over once or twice a year, and they get out and shoot. And I try, but I'm just. My confidence is not there because as much as I work on it, I'm still off in my groupings on stuff.
Right.
That first, but that was how can you be but let me tell you this, guys. I was thinking today, thinking about what I was going to say when I come down here. At my house, we have a defense system, and it's multi-layered. We have locks on our doors. We have my dog Denver. And then I have a stagecoach, and again, or let's just say I have some protection there.
Right.
It's multi-layered. My philosophy on guns is the same way. Guns are good for hunting, but that's not the only purpose for guns. Guns are a layer of our security as Americans. So we have our military.
Sure.
But then ultimately when it comes into our own area, our guns are a layer for protection. And
sure, you might even go say it's the last line of defense.
It's the last line of defense. It is certainly, we know from history, a discouragement to other nations when they find out how many guns actually are owned in the United States. The things in Ukraine now with, we don't want to be asking our government for guns whenever a country attacks us.
Well, they would give them to Ukraine. I don't think they would give them to us. So,
Absolutely, that sadly is
it
true.
is.
So,
they're going to help out the border of Ukraine from Russia, but our border is just wide open. But I digress.
But again, the great thing is that is our Second Amendment is huge in that, so that people have weapons that are able to would be used in defense of our nation, in defense of our individual homes, in the event of an attack.
Well,
and so
I think you'd agree with me, and I've had to say this several times because a lot of people will go back to the gun nut debate. Oh, well, you're just a gun nut. You're just a gun nut. But if you were to sit down and read the Constitution, and read all the amendments, there's not one constitutional amendment that's more important than the other. But without the Second Amendment in that Constitution, you can't have a Constitution.
There's no teeth.
So it is literally the netting around that provides us, and just like others have said, if it weren't for that Second Amendment, we would be what Australia's went through. We would be what Canada's going through. Germany, other, and then you go back in history. So I think that, and I just want to keep it clear for people, new people that are coming here, we're not gun nuts. We're people that understand that without that amendment, your freedom of speech and everything that you cherish would not exist. So
there's a movie, it's called Agenda. It's a documentary, but it starts back from the early 1900s, and it talks about the socialist agenda to how can they change the American culture, the history of America. And they've been very successful at some of the things they've done. They've been successful in getting Roe versus Wade in the '73. They've been successful at changing things to where no longer marriage is no longer between a husband and a wife. Just so many different things that have changed. But now they're attacking our kids.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
that is, they've been working toward that.
Mhm.
They,
Sure, we know that.
Part
yeah.
of the agenda is they've changed our colleges
Mhm.
so that when a young person goes off to college, they're exposed to and challenged in their thinking in a way that it's almost, if you're not a strong person,
No,
you
no,
can see this as
yes.
humiliation.
Yes.
You know, it's a tactic to
independent
humiliate.
thinker.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so this agenda just keeps growing.
Mhm.
On one of my mailers I sent out is I believe that our liberty, we are given our liberty inherited from our generations prior,
Mhm.
and each generation has to defend and fight for that freedom
That's
and liberty.
correct.
And if we don't, and unfortunately, it's a slow fade. It's just they check off a box here, then it moves here, then it's here.
Right. You give an inch, they take a foot.
And we keep going, and so we've got to get on the Ron.
Well,
We've got to get on the Ron DeSantis train,
Well, Todd, see, that's
and we've got to start going back the other way.
And that's what I believe is our breakdown on our, people say that, and I say it, I mean, it depends on the context, but how divided the conservatives and Republicans are, but the problem is that the Democrat Party is not the party that gives up things.
Yep.
It's the Republican Party.
Yep.
They just keep letting these little
It's a
bits and pieces
concession
go.
party. We make concessions.
Yeah, and as we progress, they find new words to throw at us, and new tropes. Oh, we're just racist, we're homophobic, all these things, until they've got us demonized. Where our government wants to claim that you and myself are extremists, that we're white supremacists, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It is so frustrating to see. It's like in Georgia we may have Republican control, but they are so far ahead of us in the things that they do sometimes. The election stuff that we hadn't touched on the election stuff,
No.
but just to touch on the problematic stuff with the election.
Sure, we can cover that.
You watch the 1,000 Mules. I know you hadn't watched it yet. 2,000
haven't
Mules.
watched it
We
yet.
did watch it.
People
Very-
are texting me like, "You haven't seen it."
You
I'm
gotta
like,
see it.
Guys,
So
I'm
it's a-
working, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying everything. But I'm going to.
But the problem I'm saying all along is what I think they did that was the most problematic is the Democrats went out, they beat the hedges to find anybody they could get registered to vote.
That's right.
It didn't matter where they lived. If they were homeless, they would find
No,
a
they
way.
had
It
buses.
just
okay.
anywhere they can get it. And then once they had them registered, they had them to get the ballots. And whether they paid them to, who knows until it's prosecuted. But what we need to do is we need to have a better investigation going backwards. We're not going to change.
Yeah.
We're not going to change anything at this point. But we need to find out who the criminals were, and we need to prosecute and put them away so that that doesn't happen again.
Now you can look at Hillary Clinton or the Hunter Biden laptop and realize that fixed 2020 is never going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But I digress. But I go back to the same thing right after the election. What had happened? Georgia was celebratory, passing this new bill that fixed the
202,
voting
yeah.
system. And as I was reading it, I couldn't believe that was even needed to be fixed in the first place. So,
Right.
I
So,
know,
and real quick on that, the problem we had widespread across the state is that our legislators just seem to turn a deaf ear to us, even though they did the 202 and they did some things to make some changes. When you talk to them, it was like, "Oh, don't worry about it, it's okay." And what we needed was to be heard, and we needed for them to show us how it was being investigated,
right, and
to find out where the problems were at, and to find out how to make a resolve.
I don't even have to say this. I don't just have to say the words election fraud. What I'm trying to say is we're living in a different time where we grew up with Watergate, we grew up with Kennedy, we grew up with all these conspiracy theories, but we were here alive when this happened. We were watching I watched the State Farm Arena shut down on live television that night due to a huge water leak, okay? We were watching them put up these things in the windows where you go, I'm saying, and to be called, or to question that and to be called like some crazy conspiracy theorist, but this is not something that we didn't see with our own eyes, right? So absolutely, it should have been investigated much more. But
So I'm looking at time. Do we need to take any comments? Is there any comments?
Yeah, let's see. Let's go back and look. We did have about, I think, up to 5 people at one time, and Looks like we don't have any more comments.
Okay.
Nick Ware, he was here. Randy Pittman, Buddy Peavyhouse, thank you for your questions. We hope that this spreads. We know this is a little bit early and people may still be outside. I don't know if the storm just came up, but we're going to continue to grow this channel. We're almost up to 100 right now, which is great in just a few short days. And we've got much more to come. Much more to come. I want everybody to know that the goal of this live stream is for you and for me. We want to hear Todd. We want to hear Jim Coles. We want to hear Colton Moore. We want to hear these people, all right? And we want you to hear them. We want you to make informed decisions about who you're going to vote for, and the people that are going to represent you. Moving forward, I'm going to do my best to have every person that's elected come back in here and sit down so that you can meet them, because it's not going to be like it was before, where all of a sudden we just show up and we're expecting our representatives to be take responsibility for things that we weren't paying attention to, right? So we're going to keep this very open and free, and I just encourage you to subscribe, get people in here so we can keep it free and public. Todd, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Guys, the election's coming up Tuesday. There's no voting tomorrow. Tuesday morning, I believe it starts at 7 and we'll go to 7 p.m. I would certainly appreciate your vote. There are great choice of candidates out there, and I started out earlier just with a little jab at Jim, but we talked yesterday. He's a good guy. I like Tarvin too. I mean, there's not a. I'm not down on these guys. We see things a little differently sometimes, and we may do things a little different. But guys, the thing is, at the end of the day, you can count on me to be consistent. Mm-hmm. You can count on the stability that I bring with my worldview, so that I'm not going to be the guy that hides in the corner. I'm not scared to stand up, and not only not scared, I will stand up in the times where there's a need to stand up. I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to do the right thing. So don't be fooled just because I'm a nice guy. I'll tell a quick story.
Sure.
So back years ago, me and Sherry were up in Cleveland. We just met this 15 years ago or so. We just met, and we were walking the Greenway there in Cleveland where she lived, and come back through, and there were a group of maybe 10 young people in their late teens, early 20s. And just as we walk into the parking lot, a boy jumps up on a car and drops his pants and is showing his rear to some of them goofing off. And there's a bunch of guys there. Mm-hmm. And immediately Todd stands up and says, "Hey, come here." I call him over there, and I said, "You apologize to Mo." I wasn't even married. I was so mad. You ever been so mad that you lose the dog?
Oh, yeah.
I was so mad. I said, "You apologize right now." And the boy said, he's like, he's making me apologize. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So, and then a couple of the other ones were like, "You can't do that to him." I said, "Come here and tell me that." I don't mind. I've got the temper if I get to that point. The bear comes out very rarely.
Sure.
And as a Christian, I try to make sure that that happens.
Absolutely.
But there's a fight there. I can guarantee you that I have to control. And so self-control is a big thing to me. And so, guys, one day you may go back and listen to this, and you may be making fun of me because I have lost my temper. But that's the reality. I'm human. I'm just like
we're all human.
I live in the second district. I work in the second, I work in this area. I'm in the third district where I work. But guys, we're all in this together. We're just people. Yep. And if you think I'm gonna do I'm the next great thing, or if any person, if you put that much on them, you're gonna be let down, because we're all just people. People make mistakes. But what you do have a right to have an expectation is that whoever represents you should represent you. In other words, they're not just representing the wealthiest in the district, or they're not just representing their best friends, but they're representing you. Now, that doesn't mean that you're always going to agree. There's a lot of times that you guys may not agree with me, but I will be respectful to you. and we will have those hard conversations. And if I stand for something, I stand for it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna come in and twist my arm and change my mind. I'm who I am. So know that, but know that I will be accessible and I will be respectful to you in any dialogue that I have with folks.
Thank you, Todd. Hey, Todd's a man of his word, and he's always been there for me, and I appreciate the opportunity
Thank
to
you,
give me
man.
the interview.
It was great.
Guys, we're going to have Jackie Harlan up here probably in about another 10 minutes or so. This live stream will end and a new one will begin. So thank y'all, and let everybody know we're going back live in about 10 minutes. Bye.